Admiral Zexna stood motionless before the grand observation window of the Stellar Defense Command Center, his four eyes reflecting the distant explosions that peppered the darkness of space. The massive chamber, usually bustling with activity, had fallen into an uneasy silence. Only the soft hum of holographic displays and the occasional whispered update from his staff broke the stillness. Another defensive line has fallen. Admiral, Lieutenant First Class Terry announced, her crystalline form shimming with anxiety. The Macarian fleet has broken through Sector 7. Zexna's upper eyes blinked slowly while his lower pair remained fixed on the tactical display. The holographic map showed the inevitable. Perfectly arranged formations of red markers advancing through their territory, with mathematical precision. The Macarians never made mistakes. They never acted on impulse. Every move was calculated with such perfection that it made their victories seem like a foregone conclusion. "How many ships did we lose?" Zexna asked, though he already knew the answer would be exactly what their strategic computers had predicted. 217 vessels, Admiral. Exactly as our probability matrices suggested. Terry's voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of similar reports. The Admiral turned from the window, his ceremonial armor catching the light from a nearby star. 300 years of warfare had transformed the once ornate military dress into something purely functional. The Star Collective had long since abandoned such luxuries as decorative elements on their warships or ceremonial flourishes in their military protocols. Everything had been streamlined, optimized, and calculated to maximize efficiency against their relentless enemy. "Show me the battle footage," he commanded, moving to the central strategic table. The holographic display shifted, revealing the recent engagement. Zexna watched as the collective's ships executed their carefully planned defensive maneuvers. Each movement had been calculated by their most advanced tactical computers, refined by centuries of combat data. The Macarian response was, as always, perfect. Their ships moved with unified purpose, adapting to each defensive strategy with counterattacks that seemed to anticipate every possible variation. The resulting battle looked less like combat and more like a complex dance where one partner always knew the other's next move. "We added random variables to our attack patterns," Terry reported, manipulating the display to highlight specific engagements. The tactical computers generated 7,000 different possible approaches. The Macarians countered each one within seconds. Zexna's lower left eye twitched, the only outward sign of his frustration. "They predict everything because everything we do follows logical patterns. Even our attempts at randomness are based on mathematical algorithms." The chamber's doors parted with a soft hiss as Supreme Commander Vora entered. Her hover platform glided silently across the polished floor, the ancient leader's tentacles draped elegantly over its sides. "The Council demands answers, Admiral," she announced, her voice carrying the harmonic overtones of her species. "We cannot sustain these losses indefinitely." "The Macarians advance because they can calculate every possible move we might make," Zexna explained, gesturing to the replay of the battle. "Our technology matches theirs. Our ships are equally capable. But their unified consciousness processes tactical information faster than our individual commanders ever could." "Then we must find something they cannot calculate," Vora stated, her tentacles rippling with determination. "There must be a factor we haven't considered, a variable that defies their perfect logic." As if in answer to her words, a priority communication alert flashed across the tactical display. Lieutenant Terry quickly accessed the incoming transmission, her crystalline form catching the light as she moved. "Admiral, Lieutenant Kaira's patrol ship is reporting an unexpected discovery in Sector 23, she announced, her voice carrying an unusual note of excitement. "They've found something different." None of them could have known at that moment, but this seemingly routine report would change the course of a war that had lasted for 3 centuries. The first piece of an impossible puzzle had just fallen into place, and the countdown to humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage had begun. Lieutenant Kara's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her ship's navigation controls. The stellar scout vessel Whisper of Dawn had sustained minor damage while evading a Macarian patrol, forcing her to attempt a risky blind jump through hyperspace. Her sensor officer, tech specialist Zin, worked frantically to repair their long-range scanning equipment. "The quantum stabilizers are failing," Zin reported, his bioluminescent spots pulsing with stress. "We need to exit hyperspace now, Lieutenant." Kara took a deep breath, her scaled skin shifting colors from anxious orange to determined blue. Initiating emergency exit sequence. All hands, brace for transition. The Whisper of Dawn tore through the fabric of space-time, emerging in an unfamiliar star system. As the ship's systems stabilized, Kara's eyes widened at the sight before her. A beautiful blue-green planet hung in space, wrapped in wispy white clouds and surrounded by a complex network of artificial satellites. "Zin, are you seeing this?" Kara asked, adjusting their sensors to focus on the planet. "Check the Star Collective database. This system should be listed as uninhabited." Zin's spots flickered in confusion as he consulted the ship's records. "No match found, Lieutenant. This civilization isn't in our database at all." The bridge crew watched in fascination as they began detecting radio signals, digital communications, and the constant movement of aircraft through the planet's atmosphere. Their sensors revealed sprawling cities, vast transportation networks, and most importantly, evidence of space launch capabilities. "Look at their orbital patterns," Kara murmured, studying the movement of the planet's satellites. "They're irregular, but somehow efficient." Zin brought up a detailed analysis of the satellite networks. "Their deployment doesn't follow standard mathematical optimization. By all logical calculations, their coverage should be inefficient. And yet," he paused, his spots pulsing with excitement, "they're achieving better results than our own satellite grids." Kara ordered the ship to maintain a stealth position behind one of the planet's natural satellites, a gray, cratered moon. From this vantage point, they continued their observations, gathering data that became increasingly fascinating with each passing moment. "Their ships," Kara noted, watching the trajectory of various space vessels. "They don't follow standard flight paths. Look at how they adjust course. It's almost intuitive." The crew compiled their findings, documenting everything from the planet's defensive capabilities to its communication methods. What emerged was a picture of a species that seemed to defy conventional logical analysis. Their technology wasn't as advanced as the Star Collectives, but they used it in ways that no tactical computer could have predicted. "Lieutenant," Zin called out, his spots now pulsing with an urgent rhythm, "I've intercepted some of their military communications. They're conducting something called a war game in orbit around their planet." The crew watched in amazement as Earth's ships engaged in mock combat. Their maneuvers were unlike anything they had ever seen, combining seemingly random actions with precisely calculated strikes. Ships would appear to make mistakes, only to turn those apparent errors into tactical advantages. "Record everything," Kara ordered, her scales shifting to a deep purple of intense concentration. "The Admiralty needs to see this immediately." As they prepared their report, Kara allowed herself to feel something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. These humans, as they called themselves, approached space and warfare in a way that defied the logical perfection of the Macarians. Their actions couldn't be predicted by standard tactical algorithms because they operated on principles that somehow merged chaos and order. "Prepare for hyperspace jump," Kara commanded, her scales now shimmering with anticipation. "We're heading back to command." "And Zin," she added, looking at her sensor officer with all three of her eyes, "mark this as highest priority. We may have just found something that could change everything." The Whisper of Dawn slipped quietly back into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind, but not for long. In her report, Kara would highlight one crucial observation. Humans had mastered the art of controlled chaos, and against the perfect logic of the Macarians, chaos might be exactly what the Star Collective needed. The United Nations General Assembly Hall had never been so quiet. The morning sun streamed through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the gathered world leaders. At the podium, Supreme Commander Vora's hover platform hummed softly as her tentacles moved in gentle patterns, completing her introduction. General Sarah Chen sat in the front row, her spine straight and her eyes focused. As head of Earth's newly formed United Space Defense Command, she had spent the last 72 hours reviewing the preliminary data the Star Collective had shared. Behind her, representatives from every nation watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension. Our war with the Macarians has lasted 3 centuries. Vora continued, her harmonious voice carrying clearly through the hall. We have lost billions of lives, countless worlds, and despite our advanced technology, we continue to lose ground. Holographic displays materialized around the chamber, showing the vast scale of the conflict. Star systems glowed blue and red, marking the territories of the Star Collective and the Macarians respectively. The room filled with quiet murmurs as Earth's leaders watched the red territory steadily expand across the galactic map. We did not come to Earth seeking allies for combat. Admiral Zexna stepped forward, his 4 eyes scanning the assembly. We came seeking something far more valuable, a new way of thinking. General Chen leaned forward slightly as Lieutenant Kara began presenting the footage of Earth's orbital operations, the very observations that had led the Star Collective to make contact. She couldn't help but smile as she recognized some of her own tactical exercises being displayed. Your species, Kara explained, her scales shifting to a scholarly shade of blue-green, approaches space navigation and combat in ways our tactical computers cannot predict. You blend intuition with mathematics in a manner we have never encountered. The hall erupted in whispers as Kara showed side-by-side comparisons of Star Collective space operations and Earth's satellite networks. The differences were striking, one showing perfect mathematical precision, the other displaying an almost organic adaptability. We offer an exchange, Vora announced, her tentacles forming the ceremonial pattern of diplomatic proposal. We will share our advanced technology, faster than light travel, energy shields, quantum communications, in return for your tactical insights and military assistance. The Secretary General stepped forward, ready to begin the expected months of deliberation and negotiation. But before he could speak, General Chen stood up. Can you show us their battle tactics? She asked, her voice clear and decisive. The Macarians. I want to see how they fight. The alien delegation exchanged surprised looks. In their extensive diplomatic experience, no species had ever responded to first contact by requesting tactical data. Admiral Zexna's lower eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this unexpected response. You wish to study their combat strategies? Immediately, he asked, unable to hide his astonishment. If we're going to help, we need to understand what we're up against, Chen replied, already moving toward the holographic displays. Show us everything you have. The next few minutes transformed the United Nations Assembly into something more resembling a military briefing room. World leaders leaned forward in their seats as General Chen and her staff began analyzing the Macarian battle formations. Their questions were sharp, focused, and entirely unexpected. There, freeze that sequence. Chen pointed to a particular battle. They maintain perfect spacing even during emergency maneuvers. That's not just programming, that's their fundamental nature. Admiral Zexna moved closer, his interest piqued. The Macarians process every tactical decision through their unified consciousness. They analyze billions of possibilities in seconds. General Chen smiled, a gesture that her alien counterparts were still learning to interpret. Then they're probably really bad at dealing with things that don't make sense. Permission to access your tactical database and begin immediate analysis. Supreme Commander Vora's tentacles rippled with what might have been amusement. You wish to begin now. without formal treaties or extended negotiations. "Commander," Chen replied, already pulling up more battle footage, "your people have been fighting this war for 300 years. I think you've waited long enough." The Star Collective representatives watched in amazement as the human military leaders dove into the tactical data with unexpected enthusiasm. None of them fully understood it yet, but they were witnessing the first moments of a revolution in galactic warfare, one that would bring the longest conflict in known space to an end in less than a day. Major James Williams stood in the Pentagon's newly designated Galactic Analysis Room, surrounded by holographic displays of Makarian battle formations. Empty coffee cups littered his desk, testament to the 18 straight hours he'd spent studying the alien combat footage. The room glowed with the blue light of hundreds of spatial projections, each showing different aspects of the 300-year war. "Play it again," he muttered to the Star Collective's technical liaison, a crystalline being named Harry. "The Centauri Defense Engagement, Time Index 47. The hologram shifted, showing a massive space battle where Makarian ships moved with perfect precision. Williams watched intently as the red dots of the enemy fleet adapted to every defensive maneuver the Star Collective attempted. "Something's been bothering me about this," he said, running his hand through his disheveled hair. "Their responses are too perfect. Not just coordinated. Perfect." Terry's crystalline form sparkled as she adjusted the display. "The Makarian hive mind processes tactical data faster than any individual consciousness could. They can analyze millions of possible outcomes simultaneously." Williams stood up suddenly, nearly knocking over his latest coffee cup. "That's it. They don't adapt. They calculate. There's a crucial difference." He moved to the central display, his excitement growing. "Show me their response times to new tactical situations." The display filled with data streams as Terry pulled up the requested information. Williams studied the numbers intently, a smile slowly spreading across his face. "Look at this pattern," he said, highlighting specific sequences. "When faced with a completely new situation, there's a micro delay before they respond. They're not reacting instinctively. They're running calculations." General Chen entered the room just as Williams was mapping out his theory. She'd been coordinating with military leaders worldwide, preparing Earth's forces for potential integration with Star Collective technology. "Talk to me, Major," she ordered, noting his evident excitement. "What have you found?" Williams gestured at the displays surrounding them. "The Makarians aren't actually adapting to new situations, General. They're calculating every possible outcome and selecting the most efficient response. But here's the key. They can only calculate based on logical progressions." He pulled up footage from Earth's own military exercises. "Look at how our pilots handle unexpected situations. We use instinct, experience, and sometimes just gut feelings. We make decisions that don't always follow logical patterns." Terry's crystalline structure pulsed with growing understanding. But the Makarian tactical systems require logical patterns to formulate responses. Without them, they'll be forced to calculate every possible outcome, no matter how unlikely. Williams finished. "If we present them with enough seemingly illogical actions simultaneously, we could overwhelm their processing capability." General Chen concluded, already seeing the potential. She turned to Terry. "How quickly can we get our pilots trained on your ships?" The crystalline alien's form sparkled with surprise. "You already wish to begin combat operations. The Star Collective's tactical experts usually spend months analyzing new strategies before implementation." Williams looked at the battle footage again, focusing on the perfect formations of the Makarian fleet. "General, I don't think we want to give them time to analyze our methods. Our advantage lies in being unpredictable." "Agreed," Chen nodded. "We'll need to act fast. Have the fleet commanders meet me in 2 hours. And Major." She paused at the door. "Good work. Sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes to see what's been there all along." As General Chen left to make preparations, Williams turned back to the holographic displays. The Macarian formations still moved with their characteristic precision, but now he saw them differently. Their perfect logic wasn't a strength, it was a vulnerability waiting to be exploited. Major Williams, Terry's harmonic voice, interrupted his thoughts. Our tactical computers calculate only a 12.3% chance of success for any strategy based on intentionally illogical actions. Williams smiled, gathering up his notes. Then it's a good thing we humans don't always listen to the odds. He paused, looking at the display of Earth's waiting fleet. Sometimes the best moves are the ones that don't make sense until after they work. Captain Diana Rodriguez sat in the command chair of the ESS Unexpected, her fingers drumming lightly on the armrest. The ship's newly integrated Star Collective technology hummed around her, its alien harmonics mixing with the familiar sounds of human equipment. Through the main viewport, she could see 19 other hybrid warships holding formation. All systems check complete, Captain, Lieutenant Park reported from the tactical station. Star Collective shields are operating at optimal efficiency. Our modified weapon systems are online. Rodriguez nodded, studying the tactical display where the Macarian fleet waited in their mathematically perfect defensive sphere. 300 years of warfare had refined their formations into something approaching artistic precision. It was beautiful, in its way. And that beauty was about to become their weakness. All ships, this is Captain Rodriguez, she announced over the fleet channel. Remember your training. The Macarians expect logic. We're not going to give it to them. Execute pattern Chaos 1 on my mark. The Star Collective observers aboard each human vessel watched in barely concealed anxiety. Admiral Zexna's voice came through on a private channel. Captain, our tactical computers calculate an 87% probability of failure for this approach. With respect, Admiral, Rodriguez replied, a slight smile playing at her lips. That's exactly what we're counting on. All ships, mark. The human fleet exploded into action. Instead of maintaining their formation, each ship suddenly moved in a different, seemingly random direction. The ESS Unexpected executed a spiral maneuver that looked like an evasive action gone wrong. Other ships appeared to careen wildly, some spinning on their axes, others diving or climbing at impossible angles. On the tactical display, Rodriguez watched the Macarian response. Their perfect sphere rippled as their hive mind struggled to calculate the purpose behind the humans' apparently chaotic movements. They're trying to predict our next moves, Lieutenant Park reported, excitement creeping into his voice. Their targeting systems are cycling through possible patterns. Rodriguez keyed her command channel again. Second wave, begin your approach. Make it look messy. Another group of human ships dropped out of hyperspace behind the Macarian fleet. Their arrival patterns defied conventional tactical logic. Some ships emerged sideways, others came in hot, their engines flaring dramatically. To the Macarian tactical systems, it must have looked like a fleet in complete disarray. Macarian response time is increasing, Park announced. Their targeting solutions are taking 3.2 seconds longer than their baseline. Through her tactical link, Rodriguez could hear the Star Collective observers reporting in disbelief. The Macarian fleet, renowned for its instant adaptability, was hesitating. Their perfect formation showed tiny gaps as their unified consciousness struggled to process the seemingly random human attack patterns. All ships, execute Phase 2, Rodriguez commanded. Remember, make it look like accidents and mistakes. Let's give their tactical computers a real puzzle to solve. The human fleet's movements shifted again. Ships that appeared to be retreating suddenly turned back. Vessels that seemed to be on collision courses veered away at the last second. Each maneuver was precisely calculated to appear completely unplanned. Macarian energy signatures are fluctuating, Park reported. Their shield harmonics are becoming erratic. They're devoting more processing power to tactical analysis. Rodriguez allowed herself a small grin. Major Williams' theory was proving correct. The Macarians' greatest strength was becoming their vulnerability. Their need to find logical patterns in every action was forcing them to expend massive computational resources trying to make sense of the human fleet's movements. "Third wave, you are clear to engage," she announced. "Keep it random, keep it messy, and watch each other's backs." As more human ships joined the battle, the tactical display became a swirling dance of ordered chaos. To any observer, it would have looked like madness, ships moving in ways that defied tactical logic, executing maneuvers that seemed to serve no purpose. But beneath the apparent chaos lay a carefully orchestrated plan. Each random movement, each seemingly erratic decision was driving the Macharians exactly where humanity wanted them. The perfect machine was beginning to stumble, its logical processes overwhelmed by human unpredictability. "Status report," Rodriguez called out, watching the Macharian formations continue to degrade. "Their response times are now 7 seconds behind baseline," Park replied. "We're actually doing it, Captain. We're making the perfect enemy imperfect." Commander Jack Liu watched his tactical display aboard the ESS Firefly, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. His squadron of 5 ships tumbled through space in what appeared to be a panicked retreat, their engines flaring erratically. "Macharian pursuit fleet is taking the bait," his tactical officer reported. "They're adjusting their formation to follow our exact trajectory." "Perfect," Liu responded, his fingers dancing across the command interface. "Signal the Singh squadron. Let's show them our favorite pincer move." Across the battlefield, Captain Priya Singh and her ships were executing their own elaborate deception. The ESS Innovator and its companions appeared to be suffering from critical system failures, their movements jerky and uncoordinated. "Macharian tactical analysis is still trying to process our behavior patterns," Singh's science officer reported, monitoring the enemy's energy signatures. "Their predictive algorithms are showing significant strain." The space between stars had become a theater of calculated chaos. Human ships wove between enemy formations with movements borrowed from everything from ballet to bee swarms. Each maneuver looked random but served a carefully planned purpose. Admiral Zexna watched from his command ship, all 4 eyes wide with astonishment. Their ships appear to be malfunctioning, yet they're achieving tactical positions that our best strategists couldn't plan. Lieutenant Kara, now serving as human tactical liaison, nodded in understanding. "They're not malfunctioning, Admiral. They're dancing." In the heart of the battle, Commander Liu's squadron suddenly ceased their retreat. The 5 ships split apart in different directions, each moving in what seemed to be a desperate attempt to escape. The pursuing Macharian vessels hesitated, their tactical systems struggling to calculate which target to follow. "Singh Squadron, execute Operation Windmill," Liu commanded, his voice steady despite the high maneuvers his ship was performing. Captain Singh's ships, which had appeared to be drifting helplessly, suddenly burst into coordinated action. They spun through space like the blades of an ancient windmill, their apparent malfunction transforming into a precise attack pattern. The Macharian vessels found themselves caught between 2 forces that defied logical analysis. Their perfect formation began to break apart as their unified consciousness attempted to process the seemingly impossible tactical situation. "Energy spike in the Macharian command ships," Singh reported across the battle network. "Their processing cores are reaching critical load trying to analyze our movements." Commander Liu watched as gaps appeared in the enemy fleet's previously impenetrable defense grid. All ships pushed the advantage. Keep them guessing. Every move should look like a mistake until it isn't. The battle space became a whirlwind of motion. Human ships rolled and spun, retreated and advanced in patterns that resembled a chaotic dance. Some ships appeared to collide only to split apart at the last second. Others seemed to flee only to turn and strike from unexpected angles. Macharian targeting efficiency has dropped to 47%, Liu's tactical officer announced. "They're missing more shots than they're landing." Captain Singh's voice crackled over the command channel. "Their predictive algorithms are failing. They can't distinguish between our actual attacks and our feints anymore." The Star Collective observers aboard the human vessels watched in amazement as the supposedly invincible Makarian fleet began to lose coherence. Their perfect formations dissolved into increasingly desperate attempts to counter the unpredictable human assault. "This is Commander Liu to all ships," he broadcast. "Phase 3 is ready. Prepare to execute the butterfly strike." As the human fleet moved into position for their next coordinated chaos, Liu couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Makarians had spent centuries perfecting their logical approach to warfare, only to be undone by humanity's embrace of tactical improvisation. "Sir," his tactical officer called out, "Admiral Zexna is requesting our battle plans for analysis." Liu smiled, watching his ships perform maneuvers that would have gotten him failed out of tactical school in any other context. "Tell the Admiral we'll be happy to share them after the battle. Right now, we're too busy making it up as we go along." Major James Williams stood beside General Chen on the bridge of the ESS Humanity, watching the tactical display with intense concentration. His original theory about the Makarians' weakness had proven correct, but now came the crucial part of their plan. "Strike teams are in position," Lieutenant Park reported from his temporary station. "All ships report ready for Operation Butterfly." General Chen nodded, her eyes fixed on the swirling chaos of the battle. The main Makarian fleet had been thrown into disarray by the human tactics, creating tiny gaps in their previously impenetrable network. Now it was time to exploit those gaps. "Launch the virus packets," she commanded. "Remember, they have to look like battle-damaged debris." Across the battlefield, specially modified shuttles began their approach. To any observer, they appeared to be drifting wreckage, victims of the intense combat. Their power signatures were masked, their movements deliberately erratic. "Makarian defense grid is still trying to establish targeting solutions," Williams reported, studying the enemy's response patterns. "Their processing cores are so focused on our fleet movements that they're barely scanning for debris." The first shuttle slipped through the Makarian defenses, its trajectory indistinguishable from the thousands of pieces of actual battle debris. As it passed near a Makarian command ship, it released its payload, a quantum data packet designed to exploit the enemy's rigid logical systems. "First insertion successful," Park announced. "Moving to Phase 2. General Chen watched as more shuttles made their approaches. Each carried a different variant of the virus, designed to appear as random data corruption rather than an organized attack. The Makarians' need to maintain perfect logical order would force them to process every piece of corrupt data, trying to restore it to proper parameters. "Second and third insertions confirmed," Williams reported. "Their network is beginning to show signs of strain." On the tactical display, the Makarian fleet's movements were becoming increasingly erratic. Their perfect formations, already disrupted by the human attack patterns, began to show more significant breaks as their command and control systems struggled to maintain coherence. "All strike teams, execute final approach," Chen ordered. "Time to deliver the knockout punch." The remaining shuttles moved into position, each targeting a different sector of the Makarian network. As they released their payloads, Williams monitored the enemy's response through the enhanced sensors provided by the Star Collective. "Their processing cores are reaching critical capacity," he reported. "They're trying to analyze and correct every data anomaly simultaneously, just as we predicted." Admiral Zexna, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "The Makarian consciousness cannot ignore errors in its tactical network. It must resolve them to maintain operational efficiency. And that's exactly why they're about to fail," Williams explained. "Each virus packet creates thousands of tiny logical paradoxes. Their system has to examine each one, trying to force it to make sense." The tactical display suddenly flared with new energy signatures as the Makarian command ships began to show signs of severe system stress. Their normally pristine data networks were becoming clogged with corrupted information, each piece demanding immediate processing attention. "Signal all fleet commanders," General Chen ordered. "Prepare for final strike pattern. The moment their network fails, hit them hard." The human fleet began moving into attack positions, their seemingly random movements now resolving into a coordinated assault formation. The Star Collective ships, which had been holding back to observe, began powering up their weapons. Processing core overload detected in Macharian primary nodes, Park announced. Network fragmentation beginning. Now. The effect rippled through the enemy fleet like a wave. Ships that had operated as perfect extensions of a unified consciousness suddenly found themselves struggling with corrupted command protocols. The precise coordination that had made them invincible was dissolving into chaos. "It's working," Williams whispered, watching 3 centuries of Macharian dominance begin to crumble. The butterfly effect in action. One small piece of illogical data multiplied across their entire network. General Chen allowed herself a small smile. "All ships, commence final attack. Let's show them what real chaos looks like." Captain Diana Rodriguez watched as the Macharian fleet's perfect formations finally shattered completely. Their ships, once moving in flawless unison, now drifted in confused clusters as the cascade of logical errors tore through their network. Main enemy fleet has lost 60% of their coordination capability, Lieutenant Park reported from the tactical station of the ESS Unexpected. Their targeting systems are operating independently now. "All ships, execute final movement," Rodriguez commanded. "Remember your choreography. Make every shot look like a lucky accident." The human fleet surged forward in what appeared to be complete disorder. Ships spun and wheeled through space, their weapons firing in patterns that defied conventional tactical doctrine. Each blast that struck home seemed like an impossible coincidence rather than a calculated shot. From the ESS Humanity, General Chen watched the battle's culmination unfold. Status of the Macharian command network. "Total fragmentation achieved," Major Williams replied, his eyes bright with triumph. Their ships are trying to reestablish individual control protocols, but the viral paradoxes have completely overwhelmed their logical processors. The Star Collective vessels, which had watched the entire battle in stunned amazement, finally moved to join the attack. Admiral Zexna's voice carried across the command channel, tinged with what might have been awe. "In 300 years of warfare, we never imagined victory could come from embracing chaos rather than trying to perfect order." The scene before them was unlike anything in recorded space combat history. Human ships darted between the confused Macharian vessels, striking from seemingly impossible angles. Each attack looked like a desperate gamble, yet somehow found its mark with devastating precision. "Commander Liu's squadron has disabled their primary command hub," Park announced. "Captain Singh's group has neutralized their backup coordination nodes." The Macharian response was becoming increasingly erratic. Ships that had once moved with perfect precision now fired blindly into space, their targeting systems unable to process the apparently random movements of the human fleet. "They're trying to retreat," Rodriguez observed, watching several enemy vessels attempt to form a defensive screen. "But they can't coordinate their movements anymore. Each ship is acting on its own tactical assessment. And that's exactly why they're finished," Williams commented from the command ship. "Their whole strategy relied on perfect unified action. They don't know how to fight as individuals." General Chen keyed her command channel. "All ships, close the net. Don't let them regroup. Keep the pressure on until they have no choice but to surrender." The human fleet moved with practiced precision disguised as chaos, herding the scattered Macharian vessels into smaller and smaller groups. Each attempt by the enemy to establish a new formation was met with a seemingly random series of attacks that forced them further apart. "Energy readings from the Macharian flagship are dropping," Park reported. "They're powering down their weapon systems." A transmission cut across all frequencies, its tone carrying none of the mechanical precision that had characterized all previous Macharian communications. "This is Central Command Node 6. We request cessation of hostilities. Our tactical systems cannot process current battle conditions. We submit to terms." The human fleet held position, their apparent disorder freezing into a perfect cosmic tableau. Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile as she relayed the message to General Chen. "General, the Macarian fleet surrenders. Time elapsed since our first engagement. 4 hours, 57 minutes. Chen's voice carried across the command network, reaching every ship in the combined human and star collective fleet. All vessels hold position, accept their surrender. The war is over. Admiral Zexna moved to stand beside her on the command deck of the ESS Humanity. 3 centuries of conflict ended in less than 5 hours by tactics our most advanced computers classified as illogical. Logic has its place, Chen replied, watching the Macarian ships power down one by one. But sometimes the best solutions come from embracing the beautiful chaos of human intuition. As the stars continued their eternal dance around them, the human fleet maintained their seemingly random formation, a final reminder that in the vast cosmic ballet, perfection sometimes means knowing when to break the rules.